Hi, I'm Kaden Hadeed, and today I'm here with...
Emmett McLaughlin?
Zach, Brewer.
And Andrew Watson.
And for our final project, we're going to be discussing the invention of the iPhone and the impact it had on the societal culture of America. And to start off with, we're going to go with Emmett.
So I kind of focus with my research on how the invention of the iPhone and the popularity of it has affected the day-to-day life of people. I think it's important, the generational gap between the people who grew up with iPhones and the people who are just seeing it now and their minds are less impressionable. So I'll start out with this. Zach, how many times would you say the average American touches their phones?
Maybe 500, 600.
Well, you are quite wrong, because the average American touches their iPhone an astounding 2,617 times a day, according to a market research by Discount. And it's become so prevalent that more than 40% of consumers said they looked at the device within 5 minutes of waking up, and over 50% said that they look at it in the middle of the night. And so that's had a big effect on lifestyle. You can't really live without it. And so new research is showing that younger brains can process information faster than previous generations, and they can transition from task to task more easily. And so that makes people who are born in this modern tech era better conditioned for constant switching, but it also has a downside. Older adults are mentally superior in their ability to focus and do one task because they have a more resilient and long-lasting attention span. And the advantage also goes to older people because they have better attention span, but also they're unable to switch between things as fast. So for example, if they're at a restaurant and they don't and they're trying to have a conversation, they get distracted by the things around them because they're much better at focusing on one thing and less good at switching in between different things. And it also it's less rewarding when you're on the iPhone because notifications distract you and they're not rewarding. And people are more happy when they're performing deep work, like writing an important report or creating something with depth, provides more help to your overall life than like answering emails or looking at social media. And also social media has a big impact on the life of teenagers and young adults because they're able to see so much of the lives of the people around them, and they don't understand as much about life because they see the image of what someone wants to present to them on their social media page. And so the inability to unplug kind of creates anxiety, and it's affected American life a lot. And Kaden will talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so to answer the question of whether or not the iPhone has really left an overall positive or negative impact on us as a whole, I really researched and dove into the mental health aspect of the invention. And so first of all, why is mental health so important in people our age, teenagers our age? And according to a recent study, 1 in 5 of young men and women will experience an episode of clinical depression before the age of 25. And today, suicide is the 12th leading cause of death in the U.S. For example, Zach, how many people do you think commit suicide every year?
Maybe 400,000?
Well, double it. Because globally, about 800,000 people commit suicide every year, with countless more attempting it. So what does all of this have to do with the invention of the iPhone? Why am I just listing all these depressing statistics? Well, we can all agree that the iPhone and the rise of the internet has changed almost every aspect of our lives forever. And a lot of it has been good. It's made a lot of our lives easier and has overall made a lot more things more convenient. However, this easily leads to consuming a lot of lives. According to a survey conducted in February 2021, nearly half of the respondents stated that on average they spend 5 to 7 hours on their phone on a daily basis. And it has been clinically proven that excessive screen time is reported to be associated with a range of negative mental health outcomes, such as psychological problems, low emotional stability, and greater risk for depression or anxiety. And it kind of established a timeline a little bit more. In just the 5 years between 2010 and 2015, the number of U.S. teens who felt classic symptoms of depression surged 33% in large national surveys. Teen suicide attempts increased 23%, and even more troubling, the number of 13 to 16-year-olds who committed suicide jumped 31%. And during all of that, the iPhone was invented on June 29th, 2007, and then the rise of social media starts with Instagram coming out in October 6th, 2010, and then Snapchat in 2011, and TikTok in 2016. And to kind of go into another aspect of the iPhone, the more business and economical side, I'm going to kick it over to Zach.
All right, so Apple alone has had a huge impact on jobs. So it's created 2 million jobs in the U.S. So that's including engineers, their app developers, suppliers, research and development, customer support, and financial services. And then also connected to Apple, you get companies like Corning who provide glass for the iPhones and the iPad. and then on top of that, you can get additional 1,530,000 jobs from what can be called the Apple Store ecosystem. So that's just referring to the network of designers and developers from the ever-growing roster of iPhone apps. And also, it has vastly changed how businesses market like their products. So social ad spending exceeded 55 billion, and it's projected to increase by 3% every year until 2024. Also, businesses make an average of $2 in revenue for every $1 that they spend on Google Ads. And Kaden, what percent of Americans do you think spend more time shopping online versus in person?
I'd say maybe half, 50%.
It's actually 90% of Americans. So really just iPhones have revolutionized how like businesses how they get their products out, and it's so much easier for people because instead of having to go to a store, you can just see it on your phone when you're doing whatever. You can just get a pop-up from an ad on social media. But enough on that. I'm gonna kick it over to Andrew now.
All right, so I kind of dove into some of the more controversial legal sides of the issue. So just a quick question for Emmett. How much money do you think Apple made in 2020?
30 billion.
So a little bit over. They made about $23.7 billion in net revenue. And a pretty significant portion of that comes from the sale of new iPhones. So according to a survey, 51% of people upgrade their iPhones every year, which is a pretty astounding number. And part of the reason for this is Apple reportedly designs their phones to fail quickly. So this has caused several lawsuits against Apple that they've lost in many countries around the world of them being accused of planned obsolescence. And so what does this mean for us? Well, since the phones are in some ways designed to fail quickly, most people would just replace them. But there are some people who would rather just repair their phones with new parts or upgrades. And so part of the legal status behind that is Apple doesn't actually give away the schematics or manuals or parts to consumers. They only give it to stores. And so this has caused many legal battles over the right to repair, which is the right for a consumer to repair and maintain their own device. And so as the battles have been fought, there's actually been a major victory in the past couple of months where Apple has actually said that they will begin to release manuals and tools and parts to the consumers to allow them to repair their own devices. So I'm just going to go ahead and kick it back to Kaden to kind of wrap us up.
So with everything we've talked about regarding the day-to-day life of the iPhone, its mental health concerns, its economic growth, and its future logistics, I want to leave you guys with a question. Do you think that the iPhone has had a more positive or negative impact since its invention in the U.S.?
I think there are a lot of positive and negative aspects of it. There's definitely the positivity of being able to globalize, and people are able to see people from other countries and share their culture, and we kind of grow as a humankind in total. But there's also a lot of negative aspects, which we've kind of touched on. So I think that definitely it's a good thing in many uses, but it can be pulled back in its usage.
Yeah, I agree that it has inspired a lot of unity, and right now I would agree with you and say that it has an overall positive impact, but I could see in the near future a lot of these problems that we've been discussing growing at a rapid rate, and my answer could definitely change in 20 to 30 years.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think overall it has sort of a net positive impact. And I mean, we've seen how it improves like communication and connectivity. And I also like kind of look more at like, the tangible, profits of it. But I definitely think like people are on their phones just so much, and I would see that just people's time online increasing. I think that's going to be a problem in the future.
Yeah, I definitely think right now there's a positive, but I think the kind of gap between positives and negatives is shrinking every year, and I can definitely see in the future it becoming a negative.
And lastly, I just want to leave everyone at home with the final question. Do you think that your iPhone is a blessing or a curse? Thank you.